healthier place for all. April 22nd was chosen because the date fell between spring break and final exams. This is a time of great imbalance on our planet Earth, and yet there is still a view that we are somehow separate from the earth. The seventh principle of Unitarian Universalism calls us to respect the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. We're called to broaden our horizons as far as 7 generations forward, to respect and appreciate it. In 1994, the Unitarian Universalist Association voted to adopt a statement of conscience called environmental justice, encouraging Unitarian Universalists to address environmental concerns through the lens of gender, race, and class at the denominational, congregational, and personal level. In 2024, the Unitarian Universalist Association joined a coalition of Unitarian Universalists, organizations and partners to launch the UU Climate Justice Revival. Together, they hosted the revival in hundreds of UU congregations during the last weekend in September, with the theme, Reimagine Together, from an extractive age to a new era. The goal was to provide UU congregations and others with the resources needed to collectively reimagine a spirit-filled and liberatory future. The UU Climate Justice Coalition consists of many UU organizations coordinating and collaborating to enact climate justice, grounded in a faithful call as a community of practice. Members of the coalition share resources, build skills, and organize actions that advance a future with climate justice, collective liberation, and a world where all life flourishes. Current participating organizations include multiple UU organizations: State Action Networks, Animal Ministry, College of Social Justice, Women's Federation, International Office, the UUA Side Up with Love, UUs for a Just Economic Community, UU Young Adults for Climate Justice Caucus, and UUs for Social Justice. Our UUA president, Reverend Dr. Sophia Bancourt, reminds us, and I quote, "This work," she says, "this calling, this shared leadership is central to my hopes and dreams for us as a Unitarian Universalist." She continues saying, "Let me remind you that the work of climate justice is the work of disability rights, it's the work of racial justice, it is gender justice and immigrant rights, it is the work of animal rights, of reproductive justice. It is central to our democratic organizing and to our work together to live into our values in the world," end of quote. All healing involves making whole again. Climate change is a human rights issue. It is affecting our health, our homes, and our freedom. Although people are the ones to blame, we are also the solution to reducing greenhouse gases and making our world live and livable. Environmental justice is justice work and healing ourselves while working to resolve the human earth contradictions in our ecology is the same work. We care for our environment so that we may sustain life for generations to come. The greatest issue of justice of all is intergenerational theft, because each day that we live unsustainably, we steal from future generations. Our understanding of how to achieve climate justice is centered around the being all in. Interdependent. We are a part of the interdependent web of all existence. While climate change poses grave threats to humans, every single living thing's health, well-being, and very existence are also at stake. Intergenerational. Although much of the current climate movement is youth-led, people of all ages must be involved and support one another to keep the movement strong. Indigenous-led. Indigenous communities around the world are on the front line of the climate justice movement. Many of these communities contribute the least emissions, but are the most affected. We must listen to them and amplify their leadership. Intersectional. Climate change affects marginalized communities the most. People with multiple marginalized identities that intersect. Women of color or trans people with disabilities. Experiences compounded discrimination. We need an intersectional movement with underrepresented voices leading us all forward. International. This is a global struggle that requires international collaboration and solutions. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change urged international policymakers that keeping global warming under 1.5 degrees centigrade, which is above pre-industrial levels, would require revolutionary changes in society. Now, while we have come a long way to gain awareness around some issues that impact this planet, we still have a long way to go in living out the seventh principle. We are all things, and all things live in us. We depend on the earth, and the earth depends on us. All across the country, Unitarian Universalists are recommitting to becoming better stewards of the earth. Many have their local energy companies perform energy audits, which provides a clear path to energy efficiency. As a faith, Unitarian Universalists have always been forward-thinking and acting to working collaboratively against social inequities and supporting efforts that will benefit all, not just some. My former congregation, First Universalist Church of Southold, had an energy audit performed by the local energy company 20 years ago. These audits results in improved lighting and insulation. The activities of our congregations demonstrate that people of faith are united by and concerned about climate change. Most congregations usually start small, like becoming a certified green sanctuary, and work their way up to greater and greener levels of energy efficiency and savings. Some even graduate to completely carbon-free by installing solar panels or other renewable energy systems. All of their activities are having a ripple effect that might even reach policymakers in Washington, D.C. We can show that saving energy and using renewable energy is the right thing to do. Now, according to Dwight Micklethwait, the architect of this building, it is insulated with a soy-based foam in the walls and in the roof. That we have no windows on the west side of the building is to minimize solar heat gain. The light-colored wall paint also reduces solar heat gain. Moreover, LED and fluorescent lighting and high-efficiency heat pump air conditioning and double pane glass windows with vinyl frames are all part of reducing our carbon footprint as a congregation. Our seventh principle calls us to act on what we claim as stewards through our interrelationship with the Mother Earth. She will sustain us if we work together in sustaining her. There are many other ways of achieving this. By being conscientious consumers, by distinguishing the difference between need and want. Educate our communities, like our schools, other congregations, with the most accurate information available. To counter disinformation and to use the internet and the arts as tools of communication. Take simple and economical steps in our own backyards, such as planting native trees and plants, as well as advocating for pro-environment legislation and research on a larger scale. Support political candidates, elected officials who acknowledge the climate crisis and demand that they take action. Work with the United Nations for generational equity so that our children inherit a planet that is both functional and enjoyable. We must support the UUNO as our representative on a global scale. Now, I don't want to get deep into bills and legislations in the great state of Texas, but I will say that Texas legislators largely ignored pleas for critical reform from environmental advocates during their legislative session. Failing to act on lowering energy use, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and lessening the disproportionate impact of pollution on communities of color. While at the same time, the laws they did approve try to block local attempts to control greenhouse gas emissions, eliminate tax incentives for renewable energy companies, and support building more fossil fuel-fired power plants. In other words, a bill that would have established a 1% energy savings goal by 2030, for example, stalled in the House. That legislation would have required power utilities to implement initiatives like installing new windows, insulation, or water heaters in businesses or houses. According to Colin Layden, Texas political director for the Environmental Defense Fund, he said that was a big disappointment because energy efficiency is the cheapest megawatt you can buy. Personally, I think many people don't think past the simple act of recycling as a way of saving energy. That's important, but our tasks are so much deeper. Through education, conversations, worship, and advocacy, we can work together to awaken our shared spirit to advance climate equity and highlight the intersections between this cause and the other pressing justice issues of our time, to realize climate justice and collective liberation in our communities. From my heart to yours, may it be so. Please stand as you are willing or able and join me in singing our closing hymn, number 348, Guide My Feet.